The latest YouGov data has just been released, and it's not looking good, with 3/4 of the British public stating that they believe that the economy is in a poor state of repair, with many more stating that they expect the economy to get worse before it gets better. Now, the spring statement has just been released, so let's see what that has to say. Now, for us property people, one of the key things we want to be focusing on is the housing section of the spring statement. Now, one of the key things that Rachel Reeves has released is she's wanting to build 1.3 million homes in the next couple of years. Now, that puts them on target to build around 305,000 houses a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time the government hit that sort of target. They've actually had that target that the Conservatives put in place in 2017, and not once have they even come close to reaching that sort of level of development. It looks good in terms of figures, and it looks good in terms of the newspapers. Will that deliverability actually be able to take place? What's been nice to see in the spring statement is £2 billion worth of funding allocated towards the social housing sector within the UK. Now, this is around affordable rent, social rent and shared ownership housing. So this is 100% affordable housing that's been allocated towards the sector. This all sounds very good, and them looking to build over 18,000 houses is obviously another great thing for newspapers and articles. However, with net migration increasing opposed to decreasing, and us already with a housing shortage, if we're building more houses, however, net migration is increasing, are we actually going to be tackling the systemic issue ahead? So if we look at the bottom of the graph here, this will showcase what the main institutes for change are. So we can see here in the green that it's the affordable housing. So that relates back to that £2 billion worth of grant funding that's going to be allocated for new affordable homes. Within the yellow, you can see the Section 106. And a Section 106 requirement is essentially the affordable housing that house builders and private developers need to build within their own private development. So let's say they're building a scheme of 100 units and 20% of them need to be affordable within the Section 106 agreement, or then 20 of those 100 units will be made up of the affordable housing. Now we can see here that instead of being reliant on Section 106 and instead of being reliant on the private developers to deliver this, they're now going to give more autonomy and more grant funding to housing associations to deliver their own 100% affordable schemes. So that'll be really interesting to see how housing associations and Homes England take this and start to develop their own 100% affordable housing schemes to help deliver on this requirement of the 300,000+ houses needed per year. As someone who has worked with many housing associations in the past, I'm sure many of them are very happy with the recent news. However, with housing associations and Homes England to release the grant funding, it's just important in terms of managing timescales. As if you want to be delivering these houses in the next 2 years, let's say, then these fundings needs to start being released now, because by the time you find the site, get the planning permission, start to get the funding in place, and then obviously develop and complete these units for families to move in, then you need to start thinking ahead in terms of the funding scales. As if this starts to get delayed, then everything else within that pipeline will look to get delayed as well. One of the key challenges facing Labour government, previous governments, and I'm sure many governments in the future, is planning policy. Now, planning policy is highly regulated and rightfully so. However, it is so slow, and it is so painful for many developers out there wanting to build houses. Now, if the government want to be building 300,000+ houses a year, they need to be proactively working with house builders, with developers, with housing associations to deliver on this amount of units. With added complexity like biodiversity net gain, just adds greater scrutiny and again just slows down the whole process. One of the key issues that I've seen impacting planning policy and housing delivery is lack of staff. Now, many good town planners and planning officers that have worked at the council were offered new opportunities at private developers and house builders, and councils simply just can't pay the sort of money that house builders are paying. And so what's actually happening is many house builders are cannibalizing themselves by taking good planning officers from the council and then putting them in their own company, which is obviously great. You've got a new great member of staff. However, you've now taken from the council, who are the ones that actually allow that application to be granted so you guys can get started on site. Now, with many councils looking at going into bankruptcy, some of them already have. Now, this is a key issue as well. How do we look to change this and impact it and improve it in the future? One of the solutions I see here for the council is investing more time and money into graduate schemes and apprenticeships. by allowing grads and apprentices to come and assist town planners and other individuals at the council to help with them planning. They can do the more medial tasks and more admin heavy tasks, so the town planners can focus on what they're specifically good at. By teaching and training your staff then through 2, 3, 5 years, they can then become more knowledgeable and assist further within the planning policy, as this is where one of the key bottlenecks of anyone you speak to, be it affordable housing, be it councillors, be it large house builders, be it other property professionals such as QSs, everyone says that planning policy and getting planning is one of the key bottlenecks for development. So by focusing and changing this, we can start to deliver more houses within the UK. Now, if you want to get into property development and help solve the housing crisis, this brings us on to the channel sponsor, Landstack. Landstack is a site sourcing and land mapping software. I've been using it for a number of years now, and it's a great tool for finding new opportunities across the UK. It has a paid version and also a free version, so you can get started today for absolutely free. I'll quickly load up a quick example for you guys. So we can see here, if we just zoom in, we can go on to planning applications to find out what opportunities are happening within the local area. We can click onto titles to load up where the title plans are and the title deeds. We can also look at comparables and constraints to see if there's anything that will impact us in developing in this local area. So it's a fantastic tool and something that I definitely recommend, and that's landstack.co.uk. Now, housing delivery is deeply complex and sometimes controversial. I'm not too sure why, because it's pretty evident that many more houses are needed across the UK to support the needs and the demands for many more families. Now, the Labour government allocating £2 billion to the affordable housing sector, I think is very much a step in the right direction. However, them saying that they want to get back to building 300,000 houses plus a year is somewhat aspirational. And until that they can start to figure out some of these key bottlenecks and some key issues, I think these figures will always remain aspirational. Like many things, what the government do and what they say are often two very different things, and so we'll just, like many, have to wait and see. If you'd like to learn more about housing delivery, property development and all things investing, then like and subscribe, and I'll be sharing more information across the coming weeks.